A previous video on this channel addressed the question, are we living in the last days? It was explained that Jesus' answer to his disciples was to let them know about events leading up to the end of the Jewish system of worship. That worship came to an end in 70 CE when the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. In Matthew chapter 24 and verse 15, Jesus gave them a sign to let them know that destruction was near. Therefore, when you catch sight of the disgusting thing that causes desolation, as spoken about by Daniel the prophet, standing in a holy place, let the reader use discernment. Then let those in Judea begin fleeing to the mountains. Let the man on the housetop not come down to take the goods out of his house, and let the man in the field not return to pick up his outer garment. Luke's account identifies for us what Jesus means by the disgusting thing. However, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by encamped armies, then know that the desolating of her has drawn near. So, the sign Jesus gave was to let them know that the end of the Jewish system of worship was near. Later in his discussion with them, Jesus let them know about a future day when he would come, in which all the nations would be involved. When would that occur? In Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36, he says, "Concerning that day and hour nobody knows, neither the angels of the heavens nor the Son, but only the Father." Matthew 24:36. The New World Translation leaves out an important word in that verse that significantly changes how to view the subject he now goes on to talk about. If you were to go to BibleHub.com and type Matthew 24:36 in the search bar, you will notice that the overwhelming majority of Bibles begin this verse with the word "but." Why is that? It is because that is how it reads in Greek. The sentence begins with "but" concerning that day. Why is that important? What difference does that one word make? Jesus ended his previous discussion with the words, "Truly I say to you that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things happen. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away." Matthew 24:34-35. The word "but" is an indication that shows a change of subject, that Jesus is no longer speaking about the subject he had been addressing up to this point, namely destruction of Jerusalem, but is now speaking about another day in the future. And if you notice carefully, from this point on, he no longer gives any indication of how near that day would be, but instead repeatedly says that they should keep awake, because no one knows when that day would come. The question is, what does it mean to keep on the watch? The Watchtower Society is aware of Jesus' words, "Concerning that day and hour, nobody knows." However, out of fear that this will demoralize their members and cause them to slack off in their zeal for attending meetings and engaging in preaching, they put more emphasis on Jesus' words to keep on the watch. This is interpreted to mean keep on the watch for world events in fulfillment of Bible prophecy that indicate that his coming is near. But if Jesus said no one knows when he is coming, how is it possible to know when he is near? This contradiction is used to keep Jehovah's Witnesses in a confused state, continually working hard their entire lives while eagerly anticipating an event that never arrives. Additionally, they praise old-timers that have remained loyal to the organization for decades, setting them up as examples of faith for witnesses to imitate. Note how this is explained in an article entitled "Keep on the Watch" in the Watchtower magazine. Many longtime servants of Jehovah learned the truth when they were young men and women. Like the merchant who discovered a pearl of high value and sold everything he owned in order to buy it, those eager Bible students disowned themselves and dedicated their lives to Jehovah. How do they feel about having had to wait longer than they may have expected in order to see God's purposes fulfilled toward the earth? They have no regrets. They agree with Brother A. H. McMillan, who after over 6 decades of dedicated service to God said, "I am more determined than ever to keep on in my faith. It has made life worth living for me. It is still helping me to face the future without fear." What about you? Regardless of your age, consider Jesus' words. "Keep on the watch, therefore, because you do not know on what day your Lord is coming." That simple statement contains a profound truth. We do not know on what day the Lord will come to execute judgment on this wicked system, and it is not necessary for us to know. but we need to live in such a way that when he does come, we will have no regrets. Jehovah raised up Habakkuk to warn the people that if they did not repent, calamity would befall them at the hands of the Chaldeans, or Babylonians. But the people refused to listen. Therefore, we can understand Habakkuk's distress as he cried out, "How long, O Jehovah, must I cry for help, and you do not hear? How long shall I call to you for aid from violence, and you do not save?" Jehovah graciously answered Habakkuk with these faith-strengthening words. The vision is yet for the appointed time, and it keeps panting on to the end, and it will not tell a lie. Even if it should delay, keep in expectation of it, for it will without fail come true. It will not be late. So Jehovah had an appointed time for bringing an end to injustice and oppression. If there seemed to be a delay, Habakkuk was not to be discouraged, nor was he to slow down. Instead, he was to keep in expectation, living each day with a sense of urgency. Jehovah's day would not be late. During the period of seeming delay, what would help Jesus' followers to keep on the watch? While in the Garden of Gethsemane shortly before his arrest, Jesus told 3 of his apostles, "Keep on the watch and pray continually, that you may not enter into temptation." Years later, Peter, who was present on that occasion, gave similar counsel to fellow Christians. He wrote, "The end of all things has drawn close. Be sound in mind, therefore, and be vigilant with a view to prayers." Clearly, fervent prayer should be a part of our Christian routine. Indeed, we continually need to beg Jehovah to help us keep on the watch. Note that Peter also said, "The end of all things has drawn close." How close? There is no way for humans to pinpoint the exact day and hour, but there is a difference between indulging in speculation, which the Bible does not encourage, and keeping in expectation of the end, which it does encourage. What is one way that we can keep in expectation of the end? It is by paying close attention to the evidence that the end is near. The Watchtower, January 15th, 2,000 pages, 9 through 14. Notice how the article says, "The Bible does not encourage engaging in speculation," and then goes on to say, "Keeping an expectation of the end means paying close attention to the evidence that the end is near." But this invariably involves speculating on what is interpreted as evidence that the end is near. Yet, while giving his disciples indications about when they would need to flee Jerusalem, Jesus gave them no indications about when he would come in the future beyond that. The Apostle Peter understood that keeping busy in Christian activity and focusing on maintaining godly conduct is what was important for Christians while waiting for Christ's return. Since all these things are to be dissolved in this way, consider what sort of people you ought to be in holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion, as you await and keep close in mind the presence of the day of Jehovah, through which the heavens will be destroyed in flames and the elements will melt in the intense heat. 2 Peter 3:11-12.
I saw what was happening in the world, and you both helped me put it all together.
We just want to be sure you are focused on the right things.
We can all start thinking too much about when the end will come.
But I'm just being alert. Isn't that what you taught me to do?
Alert is good.
And if the end is really so far off, why did I need to change my life now?
You are asking the right questions. There was a moment in our lives when we focused too much on the when rather than the why we were serving Jehovah. It affected our zeal, our happiness, our perspective. And we'd never want that for you.
This is the answer.
Since all these things are to be dissolved in this way, consider what sort of people you ought to be in holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion.
We don't know when the end will come. Could be tomorrow. Could take a little longer. But what matters is the kind of person we are when it comes.